What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of Not A24, the podcast that takes a look at movies outside of the A24 library, literally 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ashley.
And this week on the pod, Ben's not here, Ashley's here. Hi, Ashley. How's it going?
Subbing in.
We are trying to be the cool girl as we discuss David Fincher's Gone Girl. With his wife's disappearance having become the focus of an intense media circus, a man sees the spotlight turned on him when it's suspected that he may not be innocent. This is our fifth David Fincher movie that we are covering here on the show, and next week is our sixth and final Fincher film that will end with us watching the brand new The Killer, which I'm very excited about. Ashley, so wonderful to have you here. This is the Patreon. Rules are different here. We're on a timer. How are you feeling?
I'm sweating.
As you should be. Okay, good. I'm glad to know it's working. We're going to try our best to talk about Gone Girl and not get a punishment for next week, because if we do get a punishment, I will enforce that you come back and take your hot sauce shot.
It's only fair.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
okay, good. I'm glad.
Okay. Right.
So Ben mentioned and kind of alluded to last week that this is one of your favorite movies of all time, hence the swap out. He wanted to get you on the show. He wanted you to talk about it. Talk me through your relationship with Gone Girl.
I love this movie. Obviously, Ben is right. It is one of my go-to sleep movies.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I think it's like the colorscape is like really kind of muted and gray and like cool tones. There's not a lot of like, and the sound is like also like kind of muted as well. Certain scenes are exceptions, but it's kind of comfort food to me, or like a comfort food movie. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, I respect that.
Huge fan. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. So specifically like the Neil Patrick Harris murder, that's like you fired up from that spot and you're like, if I fall asleep to this, then we're good.
It lulls me right to sleep.
You're like, cool, super hot Rosamund Pike, really dead Neil Patrick Harris. Those are the things I need in order to go to bed tonight.
Ultimate soother.
Yeah. Yeah. Rosamund Pike, nominated for Best Actress for this movie, loses to Julianne Moore in Still Alice. I haven't seen this movie for probably 18 months, 2 years now.
Okay.
I forgot how good she is in this movie. Not like, I mean, I know I mentioned it. She's like incredibly attractive, like when she dresses up for NPH at the end of the movie and goes like full psycho. But her acting throughout this movie is really unreal, and it's really off-putting every time I watch it.
Every time. It's it's insane. She's so good. I haven't seen Still Alice, so I don't know. I can't compare, but man, she definitely deserves the nom. Classic
modern day cinema take. You're like, I don't know what else is on the board, but it's wrong. Bad. We should have been this one. So I'm curious. You haven't been on for any of the other Fincher pods. David Fincher as a director, do you have like a Fincher ranking? I assume Gone Girl would probably be number one. How do you feel about any of his other movies?
Yeah, we recently watched Zodiac, which I really enjoyed. I hadn't seen it since it was in theaters, and I really liked it. And since then, I've like done or watched a lot of true crime, about the Zodiac killer, and so it was like really fun to revisit. Obviously, a fan of Fight Club, and also Seven, which I know you guys aren't covering. In this little series, but
how do you feel about Mank? Have you seen Mank?
No.
Okay, good. You can it's good. You don't need to just
leave it off the list.
Take my word for it. Just keep moving on. I'm sure somebody one day listening to this pod will be like, "How dare they?" with the Mank slander. But as of today, we're in the clear. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I think Gone Girl it does kind of, and we kind of had this conversation about Fight Club a little bit. Like, is it the Fincheriest Fincher? Like, is this the most? And I think we recorded The Social Network last week, and I think that doesn't really fall into that category because it has like an Aaron Sorkin script, and it's just like Fincher kind of meshing with that. I think Fight Club would be kind of the next in line, but I really do feel like Gone Girl is like the most Fincher. Like, it feels like a pure daddy Fincher, like being really dark, really twisted, like really into hot people. Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Emily Ratajkowski just shows up to get boned. Smoke show. It just does feel like the most Fincher to me. I love that. I have one question for you before we do our true cinema moments, if you're up for that. If not, we can just like kind of talk through some of our favorite parts. But I want to know, because this is not quite a 5-star movie for me. I'm at like a 4.5 and a heart. I'm like, ooh, I like this movie. It's not quite 5. And there's one specific reason. How do you feel about the runtime for this film? Because I feel a little bit like 149 minutes. That's steep. That's almost 2.5 hours, you know?
Right. Well, I'm coming hot off the heels of seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. And so
I asked you this question at the wrong time. You're like, anything under 3 were gold.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? I
bummer.
sat through no, this is nothing.
This is a Gone Girl pod, but I will say your slander of Killers of the Flower Moon is fucking unreal. This is ridiculous.
What? Who have you been talking to?
Ben didn't tell me what he thought of it before we recorded our Scorsese pod, but he did respond and was like, I'll tell you what Ashley thought. She didn't like it. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing? It was bad.
I didn't like it. It was so long. Okay, we don't need to get into it. We only have the clock is ticking.
Clock is ticking.
I have wasted enough time on that movie.
Oh my God. I just don't feel like Gone Girl quite earns that 149 minutes. It just feels a hair sluggish to me.
There are in the third act, interesting. I think the second act lulls a little bit for me. It's sort of, after we see her, how she got into the situation, how she planned everything. Once we kind of see that play out, and then she's like in this weird motel, that's kind of when it dips for me.
Okay. I actually agree. So I'm going to recant on what I said. I feel like that motel / like robbery scene.
Yes.
That let's trim some fat here. Let's
trim some fat, but also this is the thing about the whole story that really chaps my ass a little bit, because she plans this entire like fake murder, like framing this man perfectly to the T. No issues, except I just don't know where to keep all my cash. Like that's what fucks her over in the end, is not planning out that detail.
Yeah.
I feel like some of that smart wouldn't allow that to happen.
See, but I do think that's what's interesting, is that she comes across as a stone cold calculated every single move for every moment of the movie except that one. And except the one where she is robbed and kind of like loses it a little bit and has to find a way to crawl back and like come back to what she wanted. So I do think it offers something interesting for her character and for like her story, like in juxtaposition to like where Ben Affleck's character is going and how he is starting to really unravel the strings here and figure out what's going on. So I feel like it does work in both directions, but I agree with you. Like, it just feels like it kills the pace a little bit and maybe take out 15 minutes and like we are at a pristine perfection film.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. It is necessary for her to improvise and sort of scramble and think on her feet, and that is necessary. But it just, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Bigger picture.
Okay, let's do True Cinema. We have just under 15 minutes. We're going to try and do 3 each here. I'll start off with mine. I think probably this is a really, really funny movie to me. There's so many moments in here where I just like fucking gut busted my laughter. And a lot of it has to do with Ben Affleck. I'm a big fan of Affleck. I think he's great in front of and behind the camera. I think he brings a really distinct type of humor to basically every role of his. And so my first one is the clue number 1. And this is for 2 specific reasons. Okay. One being the funny that I mentioned. We get clue number 1 and the detective basically like shows him like, hey, we have clue number 1. he looks at her and he goes, "Oh, I know this one." And it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you, guy? Like, great, you know this one? Like, why are you so giddy? I think it's the funniest thing in the whole movie. And the second reason is because it is this like erotic psychosexual treasure hunt that we're on, where it's like, it is really steamy and it's also exceptionally deceptive and dark. And Ben Affleck is great for that. Rosamund Pike is great for, like, they have this really toxic hotness that plays off of each other. And so to like to have him and then the detective read that like really spicy letter, and then to find either his wife's or his mistress's panties like in the office. I think it's a great like way to start this off and just be like, my guy Ben Affleck, you're boned. You're royally screwed in this situation.
No, that's a great one. There have been times where for either like a birthday or anniversary, it's like, should I plan a weird little Gone Girl trip, like scavenger hunt? I've never done it.
Ben is not. I will not give Ben the link to this pod. I will keep it private for everybody else. Make it happen, Kat. That's what I say to that. Speaking of which, Ben asked last week on the show. He wanted to know, because since this is one of your favorite movies, maybe you can clear the air a little bit.
Okay.
Are you long conning Ben? Like, are you planning a Gone Girl situation where in 5 years, like, it turns out you wrote all these journal entries and you're just gonna dip?
Well, honestly, I think that's why he made me come in for this episode, because like when I put this movie on to fall asleep, he's like, honestly will like look at me like, what?
You psycho?
Yeah. So I think he is trying to like kind of like pick up on some.
Yeah.
If there's any red flags here, I think he's hoping I'll let them slip.
Respect.
Yeah.
Well, just don't be like Rosamund Pike. Don't let it go.
I know.
Be the cool girl. Stay the cool girl. Do you have a true cinema moment you want to bring up?
Okay, I have so many.
We're on a time clock here.
I know.
You gotta pick one.
I know. I think. Well, okay. There's a lot I want to say. But okay. First one that I have written down is the meet cute. That's fine, but
okay.
Searching when
the
they
exceptional vagina part.
Yeah. How'd you know? No, but when they first of all, like, I love David Fincher's casting. There's always like so many fun people that pop up, and it's like, okay, Minkus from Boy Meets World was in Zodiac and he's in Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Once again. So it's fun to see him. I love Patrick Fugit in this role, and Kim Dickens is great as the like detective.
Really good.
So the true detective moment, or true cinema moment. Okay.
You're all over the board. The timer's
I'm
throwing you out of
joking. I
whack.
know. All right, when they come and search the house, and she puts the post note on the
the blood splatter.
Yeah, the blood splatter. And then I think that's when Ben Affleck knows, like, oh shit, this is like for real. Like, this is a serious situation. There's blood here. I don't know what's happening, but we're fucked.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good call for sure. I think that's really the beginning of like, oh, there's more to what is going on here. Since you took so much time, I've got to dive in right to number 2. My second one is, again, a funny moment. And it is because there's so many like great moments in this movie, but I was just like really drawn to these. So again, with this kind of like psychosexual nature between Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike, it kind of comes on the heels of like Pike's monologue a little bit, and like in that range of understanding her side of things and how like deteriorated their relationship and their marriage became. There's a very specific scene where they are fucking in front of a mirror, and exceptionally like uncomfortable to look at Rosamund Pike in this situation, and they're just getting it going, and Ben Affleck finishes and he walks away and he goes, "We should go to Outback tonight," and then it just cuts to a different scene. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that was just Ben Affleck on camera. I don't think that was like a Gone Girl thing. I think that's really probably what he does with J-Lo. But I was like, yeah, we should go to Outback tonight.
Yeah. J-Lo loves a bloomin' onion, obviously.
That's just like his thing. I just think it's incredibly funny. Like breaking this
It is so good.
death, like this really death tension with incredible one-liners. Really, really Fincher of Fincher.
You love it. You can't get enough.
Yeah. What do you got? A second one you want to throw out?
Second one, I mean, I can't not choose the montage when she lays out her plan and she talks about being the cool girl and how she, hatched this plan to frame the guy for not living up to the expectations he set for her. It's great. It's so good. It's so good.
And it works every time too. I think on the Scorsese pod we kind of talked about like the flaw, the vital flaw of Shutter Island is once you've seen it 10 times. Especially with the flip that kind of happens in the narrative Easter eggs. And I think in this monologue and this kind of narrative flip that happens with her character, it works every time because it is so engrossing and you get this massive monologue about being the cool girl and you get really entrenched into what she is telling you. And that is when it really feels like it kind of like shifts into another gear and we go full into this story. And it's not really this like hidden like twist or anything. It's like, oh, this was the plan. This was happening all along. Cool. Like, let's put some more puzzle pieces together. And it does really, really work. That's a great scene.
And I think so many people and women particularly are drawn to true crime because statistically the person that's most likely to murder you is your spouse. Yeah. And so I just loved like to see that dynamic and that sort of, it's not a trope, it's reality, right. But just to see that power dynamic shifted so drastically and to see a woman and a wife sort of take the power back in that scenario.
Yeah, totally. Okay, third true cinema moment. I can't really decide between two, so I'm just gonna like kind of push them together real fast. One of them is the rape story from the old boyfriend. So we have when Affleck's character Nick Dunn goes to really start like sussing all of this out and being like, oh wow, she like Amy is a terrible person. And you hear the absolute life-changing tragedy that Amy had on this guy and is like, I haven't had a date in 10 years. Like, I can't get a job. I have to write him a sex offender on every application I do. Like, is really intense. And I think what this movie really does so well is that consistent narrative flip of like, oh, like, okay, Nick, this feels good. Like, Nick is going in the right direction. I think we can like suss this out. We're getting Tyler Perry as our lawyer. Like, things are looking good. And then you flip to Amy and you're like, oh, like she just continues. Like, is she just going to come back and keep wrecking people's lives? Like, how is this all going to kind of finalize? So I really like how that scene plays. But of course, naturally, I have to say, Amy killing Desi, who is Neil Patrick Harris's character, at the exact moment that he comes is incredible. And it's really like this uncut gems moment realized of like, holy shit, I'm going to come. And then he dies. So Rosamund Pike, incredibly sexy in this scene, like with her power strut and with her absolute control over his character. And then you kind of see the plan play out in real time of like the things that we've heard, which is really exciting because it's the first time we hear it. And this leads into obviously her coming back and all of these things. And where things get, again, like the temperature just keeps getting turned up about like these situations that are happening. But that scene in particular, obviously where the movie kind of pinnacles and you're just like, oh shit, we went here and we did it.
Yeah. I mean, the whole setup to that scene is incredible with how she's, creating the ligature marks on her wrists.
Crazy.
Creating all this physical evidence on her own body before anything ever happens. Is I don't want to say it's beautiful to watch, but it's watching the master at work. I mean, yeah. And like, you're right. Like, she's lost all this weight. Her hair is like cut blonde. It's exactly what you'd want it to be. And then you do see the switch flip. You see it in her face where like she turns into a killer.
Yeah.
And like you watch that hand slide under the pillow to get the box cut.
You're just like, oh, it's coming. It's coming.
I know. It's so nuts. It's so nuts.
So scary.
So good.
Do you have one more scene you want to do before we wrap?
I do. The scene that like kind of gave me goosebumps a little bit is the closet scene when she presents him with the positive pregnancy test. And
yeah.
she like lowers the trap and he like throws her head against the wall and he calls her a cunt. And she's like, the only time you like yourself is when you're being a person this cunt might like. And it's just like, it's so incredible because in that moment we realize like he is into this. Like he's not
absolutely.
He is into this.
Yeah.
They're twisted and toxic and they are the perfect match.
Yeah. It's really a physical manifestation of everything we've been seeing for 2 hours and like 20 minutes. Cause that's like really, really close to the end. Yeah. He's into it on the same level that might not physically manifest itself in murder, but like,
right.
He does. He is into this whole thing, and that scene definitely proves it. And like, I've killed for you. Who else can say that? Is stone cold, real stone cold. Really, really good call. Good stuff. Would this fit into the A24 catalog? I think I'm going to say the same reason I said last week for The Social Network. It's too clinical. It's too cold blooded. It's just too perfect. It's kind of like on that upper echelon of a kind of a masterclass of filmmaking. And I think A24 is not necessarily known for that high quality, precise perfection.
Sure. I think that's probably accurate. I would agree. Although, so this movie is based on a book, obviously by Gillian Flynn, who also, she wrote the screenplay for this, which I think is interesting to have someone took the source material and adapted it for the movie.
Yeah.
But also she wrote another book called Dark Places, which is in the A24 catalog.
I didn't know
Charlize
that.
Theron. So yeah,
wow.
and it's not very good, the movie. I mean, the book is a fun read, but the movie's not as good. But I think that it kind of goes to show what someone like Fincher can do.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah,
that's a really good call.
It does elevate it beyond, but.
We are planning on covering Dark Places here in just a couple of weeks on the show. So a little teaser. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. So next week on the Patreon pod, like I said, we're wrapping up Fincher season. We've made it to the end. We're going to be talking about the newest David Fincher movie starring Michael Fassbender, The Killer. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am excited. I am really excited. Yes.
Awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be really, really good. Ashley, thanks for coming on 24 minutes of not A24. It looks as though we've made it under the time limit. I know I have to like send us out with my monologue, but it feels pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is my social network. Like I could talk about this for hours. So I'm kind of impressed that we were able to make it under the wire.
Yeah, it's a tough challenge here on the 24-minute timer. But I guess people listening to this, maybe like mark your calendars 5 years from now, if Ashley's name is in the news, you know, it was this pod that broke the news first. We knew you were going Gone Girl, trying to be the cool girl. But thanks for coming on.
I am the cool girl.
What are your thoughts on Gone Girl? Let us know. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Obviously, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch this video and our regular podcast as well. And then thank you for supporting us here on the Patreon. If you want to see us do stupid hot sauce punishments, just get your friend or family member to join us here on the show. We'll do it once they subscribe. I'm Ethan Simi, and I've podcasted for you. Who else can say that?